Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women watch for the first time and rewatch tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by nor affiliated with any of the shows, products, people, channels, anything that we talk about in this podcast. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is
Phil of the future.
We are going to mix up our format a little bit. We started to do it at the end of Raven, where we're going to do like an intro episode, tell you about the premise, the characters and whatnot, and the first 4 episodes of the show.
Yes.
And then we'll have another season 1 episode after this to go over the rest of season 1, just to like break it up a bit. Maybe this one won't be 2 hours. We'll find out. This might not age well.
Yeah, we will see. We always say that we're going to give you shorter episodes, and then they're all an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I think we've given up on that.
And then we're guests on other people's podcasts, and they're an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just all we know how to do. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah. So Phil of the Future is a show that had 2 seasons, 2004 to 2006.
Yep.
And I think it was originally called like They're Not From, like it had some weird other name, like The Others, or
I didn't write it down, but you are correct that it did have some weird name.
There's not an episode that ever explains the premise. It's in the theme song, which is like one of my favorite things about the show. I love shows that set it up for you so you don't have to ask what happened. Phil Diffy and his family are from the year 2121, and they were on a time machine vacation going through the ages, but their dad got the cheap time machine. It broke, and now they're stuck in the year 2003, 2004. It's current with when the show is coming out.
Yep.
We don't know where exactly they're set. I think it might be somewhere in the Southern California, like Pasadena or something, just because there is an episode where they like go to a festival all of a sudden, and also there's an episode where they say that they came from Kansas, from the center of the country. So that's my guess, but I don't know. It's never specified.
Yeah, and it's hard. Again, it's one of those things where they have a giant backyard. So to me, I'm like, they're not in California, but we know that hasn't stopped Disney before. So, but they never state it, and it's not like Raven where it's like extremely clear where it's set.
Yeah, I think it's almost intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah.
The only like thing that's specified is that Phil and his younger sister Pim go to H.G. Wells Junior and High School, which of course is a little nod to sci-fi futurism. A little too on the nose. So our protagonist, Phil Rupert Diffy.
I know, I put their full names in it this time because I find it funny that they give characters middle names because, like, why? You know?
Yeah, it's just for that added effort or the effect when the parents call them by their full names.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a 14-year-old boy is when we start, so season 1. So I would place that as like freshman? Potentially sophomore?
It's mentioned in one of the episodes.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a sophomore, but I'm not 100% on that. but definitely a junior classman.
Yep. And he's just like very easygoing. He's just like kind of, I would say he doesn't really have, besides being from the future, he doesn't really have anything that is that unique or like, I hate to use this word, but like special about him. He's just like nice, easygoing, standard high school boy.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right. Like, I've never thought of it that way, but he's kind of like the everyman.
Yeah.
Um, he's pretty smart, bit of a nerd. In one episode, he seemed to be pretty controlling, butts heads with his sister a lot, but cares about his family and his goofy parents.
Hmm.
And he's a good friend.
Yeah, he is a really good friend. I would also say he's a good sibling too.
Yeah. He kind of gives me Justin Russo vibes, except Justin had more of a nerd personality.
Yeah, I
Justin
would
was
say,
more eccentric.
yeah, I would say where he's a little more unique. I would say that Phil is like the more toned down version of
Mm-hmm.
Justin Russo.
Yeah.
And Phil is played by Raviv Ullman, or Ricky Ullman, who was 18 at the time of filming. He's an Israeli American actor, director, and musician. He's best known for playing Phil on Phil of the Future. Like we see with these shows, a lot of it, their claim to fame and only fame does tend to start and stop with Disney. Um, he was born in Israel, and then shortly after his first birthday, his family moved to Connecticut. He developed a passion for, I guess, more interest, I don't want to say passion, in acting during a summer camp he attended where he played Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
And then his first professional role was in the touring production of The King and I alongside Jesse McCartney, which I thought was a fun fact.
I didn't know Jesse McCartney was in The King and I.
I know, right? Other productions he worked on included Peter Pan, Just People. So he did other like live like plays and musicals. And then he started kind of starring in roles in like 2000, 2001. Um, he played Roscoe in Pixel Perfect in 2004, and he guest starred in That's So Raven in 2005. But really, this was like the start of his career
And height of
and
it.
the height of his career.
Yeah. And he went by Ricky Ullman when he was on Disney Channel, and I might refer to him that way out of habit, but I think now he mostly goes by Raviv Ullman.
Yes, that's what I found online is, yeah. I feel like Ricky was when he was younger, and now he goes by Raviv.
Yeah. Also, shout out Pixel Perfect. I really like that movie. And Ricky was cute. Raviv was cute. He was cute as Phil. I started
Yeah.
watching it and I was like, oh, why did every girl have a hold on that? Like, or why did that hairstyle have a hold on every girl in
Yeah,
in
the
the
like
early
short,
2000s?
kind of like not spiky, but kind of spiky.
It's just like slightly flipped up in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's just so cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, okay, there's a few like movies I reference here that I'm like, ooh, we don't get a decom associated with Phil, just like we didn't get one for That's So Raven. So it's like, what can we watch after this that still involves some of the characters? And there's a couple fun options.
Yeah, I know. Later on we
Mm-hmm.
have yeah, for
Uh-huh.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Our second Diffy is Pim Nicole Diffy,
Yep.
which cracks me up that her name is Pimela because
Pamela.
is that a name?
I mean, anything's a name, right? All names are made up.
That's
But
true.
like, it is one of those things where I wrote it and I was like, who decided that? Like, I would never.
I kind of get it if you want to say that it's like a futuristic name, but then Philip is very not. But anyway, we call her Pim. Pim is 12 years old. She goes to H.G. Wells Middle School. As Jessica noted, she's basically the Matt McGuire of Phil of the Future.
Isn't she?
She's more diabolical. I think Matt is up to no good and he has like individual shenanigans all the time. Whereas Pim is intentionally bad.
Sure.
She's like kind of evil.
Oh, I full on think she's evil. I'm starting to develop the storyline that she is evil.
I used to think she was when I was younger watching the show. I'm not 100% anymore, but I'm on the fence. She's very quirky. I love what she adds to the show, though, and I love that the younger sibling that's up to no good is a girl this time.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciated it that it was a girl, but it did really feel just like, oh, let's throw in this sibling that's just creating trouble and like wrecking havoc like left and right. Because
Yeah.
that's like their one note for the younger sibling, I feel.
Yeah. They they definitely give younger siblings a bad rep for
For
Disney
sure.
Channel. But also this is one of like this is the first show that we're watching where the lead is a boy. And after this will be Sweet Life probably.
Well, even Stevens was kind of weird because it was like co-led.
Right.
So I would say this is the one where it's like the lead truly just follows Phil.
Yeah. But yeah, we didn't get that many of them. Anywho, Pim is played by Amy Bruckner, who was 13 at the time, mostly known for Phil of the Future and American Dragon Jake Long.
She was born and raised in Colorado, and so she began her acting career in the 4th grade, and she just did like small little guest stars, like one episodes on like ER, Malcolm in the Middle, Oliver Bean, Ally McBeal. Um, and then I didn't mention this with Phil, but this is right around the time, I don't know if all of you guys remember, but Disney had the like Disney Channel Circle of Stars, and they would like redo and sing like classic Disney songs as a group, and there would be like a video, and I feel like they would really hype it up. And so both Ricky Ullman and Amy Bruckner were part of that Disney Channel Circle of Stars.
We had 2 songs from them. We had Circle of Life and we had A Dream is a
Wish.
With cast members from all of the shows that we've talked about thus far and some of the other ones left before they went into the Hannah Montana and Send It On and all of that shit. Anyway, it was a moment, it was a movement, and we had the Disney Channel games, which they also participated in.
Yeah. I feel like maybe we need to rewatch the Disney Channel games
I think
because
it could be a bonus episode.
I think it could be. Let us know if you have interest in that, because I remember watching it growing up and being like, what is this? And why are we all watching it?
I was so into it and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And we have Phil's best friend. Kiliana is her name? Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Her name is Kiliana Teslo, also known in the show. I don't think we ever hear their full names. She's referred to as Keely.
She's 14. She's Phil's best friend. She is fun. We see that she's one of the popular girls along with her other friend. She's energetic. She's outgoing. She's naive at times. We get a lot of her.
Mm-hmm.
And more of her than you might with a regular best friend. Like, we get more friends than we do family, I think, in this show.
Yeah, I agree. Because even in scenes where you're like, why is Keely there? Keely's always there. Like,
yeah. She's played by Ally Machaca of Ally and AJ.
mm-hmm.
She was 15 at the time.
She was. And you'll see with the show, they're pretty accurate in their casting. The only person that's like kind of off is Ricky Ullman, who was 18 at the time. But other than that, they're pretty spot on. So, unlike the other people, this actually truly was the start and not the peak of Ali Mashaka's career. She didn't do a much prior to this. This truly was um, kind of where she started was 2004 with both her music career and her acting career. But
Mhm.
she grew up in Southern California, and she has one sibling, AJ, or Amanda Joy. And so her mom was in a Christian rock band, so they grew up in like a musical household. She started playing piano at the age of 5, guitar at the age of 13, and then she started performing in church productions at the age of 5, and that's kind of how she knew she had an interest in it, and then obviously it turned into a career. In terms of acting, she also starred in Now You See It, which came out in 2005, and then the iconic DCOM that she starred in with her sister, Cowbells, in 2006. So I would have to look at dates, but it was either like right as Phil was finishing or right after Phil finished is when Cowbells came out. But I really think we might need to watch Cowbells because I just remember it being a roller coaster.
I think I've only seen it once or twice, but I do recall privilege. I felt like it was like
Yes.
it was like was it The Simple Life?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a take on that in my mind.
Yeah, but Disney-fied.
Yeah. And Ali and AJ were at the start of their music career signed to Hollywood Records, which is the Disney owned label where they put most of their Disney Channel stars. And their music was played on Disney Channel all the time. They were pretty family friendly. I remember finding their music in a Christian store before because I think sometimes they were classified as Christian rock. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even in one of the episodes in season 1 of Phil, Keeley sings, and it's actually an Ali and AJ song that's on their first album. So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
but they formed in 2004. So it was like right as Phil was going, her music career also started. Their first album came out in 2005. And then they did a holiday album in 2006, which I for sure owned and played in my yellow CD player. I remember
Mm.
loving that holiday album.
And she's kind of the first successful pop star post and with Disney because oh no, Hillary.
Hillary.
Because I was gonna say Raven, like obviously sang, but like no one bought her albums. But like people bought Hillary's album, so I take it back.
But I would say they were the first successful duo
Oh, for sure.
that came out of Disney. Because like if you were our age and you did not know every single word to Potential Breakup Song by Ali and AJ, who the heck were you?
I still know every single. They still perform that song.
Of course. Like if you went to their concert and they did not sing that, you would be pissed. You'd walk away and
Hmm.
be like, "Why did I come?" Like
It's the misery business of Disney Channel.
it is.
Okay, but we gotta move on. Next we have the mom, Barbara, Barb, Gertrude, Diffy. They mostly call her Barb.
Mhm.
45. She's more of a hands-off mom. She's not great at cooking, which makes sense because she's from the future where she doesn't have to cook. She sometimes is seen just like leaving the room when the kids need punishing or dealing with. She's like, eh.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
feel like we don't get a lot of her. Or at least, so I've only watched the first 4 episodes so far. Amanda is further into season 1 than I am. But yeah, I was like trying to rack my brain of, I'm like, what is her personality? And I was like, I don't know. We don't really see a lot of her.
yeah, I was trying to think about like why that is because I feel like aside from Lizzie, we get more of the dads in every show.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird.
Yeah. I would say Even Stevens was kind of similar. But even in Even Stevens, we still got more of the parents.
And even Stevens, we got more of the dad though. Like the
Yeah.
mom was political and stuff. Anywho,
Yeah.
she's played by Elizabeth Caroline. Is that Lise?
I think she goes by Lise Sims. So her name is Elizabeth, but I'm pretty sure it's Lise Sims. is what she goes by.
He was 41.
Mm-hmm. She's born in Colorado, so she was 41 at the time of filming. And I think I wrote it here, but I don't know if we said that her character's 45.
Mm-hmm.
She was 6 of 9 children, which, like, that sounds like just bananas. I could not imagine.
My cat just opened the door on her own. It was closed.
I heard it.
It was closed.
She's like, let me out of here. Lise started acting at 13, and then after graduating high school, she went and she performed on Broadway a lot in the 1980s. So she was in Can Can, Mame, Other People's Money, Bye Bye Birdie. And then in like late 80s into the 90s, she did some film and TV, including Sunset Beach and The Young and the Restless. She was on The Young and the Restless for like 30 episodes or something like that. And then she did some roles on Mad TV, Friends, Beverly Hills 90210, ER. So she's done like a fair amount of TV in the 90s and early 2000s, though she is still most well known for her role in Phil of the Future.
Lloyd Diffie, the dad. Lloyd. He's another klutzy, dorky, goofy dad, a la the McGuire dad.
Yep.
Similar to the Even Stevens dad as well. You know, I think they don't really know how to write dads if they aren't goofy, which is fair, because I wouldn't either if they're still family friendly. He spends a lot of time with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to fix the time machine is his whole mission, and he is really bad at it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's played by Craig Anton, which was 42 at the time of filming. He's an American actor and comedian, and so best known for his roles in Phil of the Future, and then he also was Mr. Pettis in Lizzie McGuire.
Right, so I read that, and I have no recollection of that.
So Mr. Pettis was only in season 1 of Lizzie.
Yeah.
But you don't remember? Oh, see, when I looked at photos, I was like, oh yeah, that is him.
Oh, I don't think I looked at photos.
Oh, okay. I went and looked at photos because I was like, what? He was Mr. Pettis? But then I was like, I need to remind myself, we've watched so much Disney in the last, like, 8 months. I'm like, who is that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in Omaha. He really actually truly started off as a stand-up comedian. So a lot of his work was doing that. So he started off while he was still in high school. And then when he graduated high school in the 80s and graduated college, in the 80s, he traveled around as a comedian doing the college circuit. And then eventually he went internationally and toured internationally doing stand-up comedy. In 1985, he was named Showtime's funniest person in Nebraska, which I just thought was hilarious because do they give a funniest person for each state?
Probably.
And like whoever the person is from Alaska probably isn't that funny because how many comedians are in Alaska?
That's so rude. You need comedy to live in a place that's dark for months on end.
I guess that's true. But in the late 80s, he moved to New York to pursue acting and then shortly after moved to Los Angeles. He has some film credits prior to getting Phil of the Future, but primarily TV credits. So he also was on Mad TV for 3 years in the 80s, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Ally McBeal, King of Queens, Everybody Loves Raymond. He was on a couple episodes of The Office. Like, he did a lot of guest starring roles, but he is most known, as we said before, for Phil of the Future.
Okay, but I gotta say, parents, Pim, Raviv, yes, but we've got Allie. And I think our side characters break tradition in that regard.
Huge names.
So I fully forgot who any of the, like, I remembered the premise, I remembered the family. I will say I started watching this and immediately I was like, oh, it's that show. Like, I'm pretty sure I had a crush on Phil, Keely, and Pim all at once when I was watching this growing up. Like, everyone's beautiful and like smart or funny. But I had forgotten the side characters, and then I was watching and I was like, what the fuck? They're in this? They're? And then I didn't write down the names because I didn't want to spoil it for Jessica. But I'm gonna power through. Our first main side character is Tia. I don't know that she gets a last name. I did not do half as much research as Jessica when I did the side characters because they're side characters, but she is Keely's best friend, and she is played by none other than 16-year-old Brenda Song, the queen herself.
She's the queen of Disney Channel.
Absolutely. Tia is pretty. She's a bit shallow. She's popular. She's clearly well off. Like, she has quite a bit of money. It's not always the best of friends, but she usually shows up and turns it around. Usually, not always. And at this point in Brenda's career, we've seen her as a guest star in Raven. She's done a few DCOMs as well. Primarily, that's been the thing she did on Disney Channel up until now. She'd done, God, probably like 2 or 3 by the time of this.
Yep.
By Phil of the Future. And so this is where we're getting into peak Brenda. This is like probably Stuck in the Suburbs time Brenda. And then the year after this, after Phil came out, 2005, is when she gets on Sweet Life, and we really peak. But we're up high on the ascent now.
We're climbing.
Yeah. Seth Wasmer. This is the one that threw me for the biggest fucking loop. Were you expecting this, Jessica?
No, because I didn't even remember that this character existed.
I didn't remember this actor was ever on Disney Channel. He plays Phil's nerdy friend. And it is one of, at the time, 17-year-old Evan Peters' first ever acting credits. He was in like a couple things before this, primarily Sleepover. I think the other things were more like guest stars. But he did have a fairly substantial role in Sleepover. Like, I remember that one. That's the movie with Alexa.
I don't know if I ever watched that.
Okay. Evan Peters plays Seth Wasmer. He's nerdy. He's ungroomed. He's enthusiastic about life. He's into the ladies. He's a pretty good friend, and he's looking for more popularity. He's looking to move up in life. That's how I feel about Seth.
Yep. We don't get a lot of Seth in the first 4 episodes, so I feel like I need to get to know him.
Yeah. And next we have Miss Debbie Berwick. Deborah.
I forgot this actress was in this show.
Me too. This is another, not as ridiculous as Evan Peters, because obviously he's now more of a big name, but this is a household name for the Disney Channel kids.
Yes.
14-year-old Kay Panabaker. Her first role that she's credited with as an actress was 2001, playing the garbage monster in Monsters, Inc. It was a voice role. It was a very small one. I couldn't find a clip of it. Debbie Berwick is sunshine and rainbows and daisies. She drives Pim nuts because she's everything that Pim is not. And she's actually good at everything and nice to everyone. So regularly, she's just going about her Debbie Berwick life, trying to be good. And Pim takes it as a personal affront and decides to be completely competitive and ruin Debbie's life. And it always backfires on her.
Yeah, Debbie's just like so sweet and loving, like girl next door vibes. Like, you just want to go over and like bake cookies with her. Like, she is just very wholesome.
I would not want to bake cookies with Debbie Berwick. She's annoying. But she's very wholesome.
I don't find her annoying.
And they're like frenemies. They're kind of friends, but they're also
Yeah, they sit together at lunch, but I agree with you that like Pim hates her with every ounce of her being.
But I think Pim wouldn't know who she is if she couldn't hate her. Like, I think Pim needs her.
Sure. I agree.
Other smaller roles, we have Bradley Benjamin Farmer, played by 13-year-old Rory Thost. He's kind of Debbie's boyfriend in some cases, but also he's very much into Pim in some instances. He's very uptight. He's like a grown-up in a little kid's body, and I don't love the way that he's characterized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
I would agree.
BBF. We'll get into that in an episode. Curtis is a caveman who stowed away on their time machine and now lives in their garage. He doesn't speak English. He kind of just like grunts a lot, but he's clearly adapting to the modern life and he's like understanding when they talk to him.
Mm-hmm. He knows some words.
Yeah. Now, I did not know until I was writing down the side character info today, and I've watched almost all of season 1, that Curtis is portrayed by the same actor who plays the next character I'm going to mention. J.P. Minot, 35 years old, played Curtis the Caveman, and also Vice Principal Hackett.
Very interesting. Would have not known that.
Have you seen both of them yet?
I haven't seen Vice Principal Hackett yet, but I do know who that character is, and I would have not guessed that was played by the same actor.
I'm like, they did a lot on the cosmetics front for Curtis because it's pretty hard to tell. And I think later we're going to have an episode where they like run into each other. I'm not sure. No spoilers. Anyway, Vice Principal Hackett.
The whole entire podcast is spoilers.
I know. Vice Principal Hackett is the eccentric vice principal. He's kind of morally gray, you know? He's really kind of living life for himself. One of the episodes, he accepts like $100 or $200 in donation from Pim and Debbie. And I'm like, you could not take money from your students. I don't know how to feel about him.
Yeah.
But he kind of plays an adult counterpart with Pim and Debbie's storylines more often than with Phil, I think. And yeah, both played by J.P. Minot, who was 35 at the time. He kind of started out in the public eye as a game show contestant in like the late 90s and early 2000s. And then he had a reoccurring role on ER, and he was in a guest star in a bunch of different things. But notably for this podcast, he played Shorty in Even Stevens in the episode where there was an elevator, and he was Shorty the bellboy with the elevator.
Oh my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that wraps up all of our notable characters. And it's a fun cast. It's a very white cast, I will say.
It's a very, very white cast. It's a fun cast in terms of, like, we got a lot of people whose careers were either just starting or they were on their rise.
Yeah.
And quite a mix of different people. It's a good cast. They definitely cast it. I don't know if I want to say casted well, because there could have been a little more diversity, but
yeah, but in terms of star power, it is a pretty remarkable cast. Like, every time a new side character popped up, I was just like, oh shit, we're in for it.
yeah.
The intro, fucking iconic.
Oh, so like the song is something where it's like, even if you think you don't remember this show, you know that intro song.
All this early afternoon while I was taking notes, I just kept singing the song. But to what you just said, there's a YouTuber, Nathan Zed, who makes pretty good pop culture, like, sort of like theorizing about pop culture, like what happened to the rom-com, why'd it die, whatever. And he made one about like good theme songs and how we don't have them as much, and and went through the different types, and one being like the one that explains what the show is. And he was like, I do not remember a single thing about Phil of the Future, but I know this theme song.
Yeah. And it's like, as Amanda mentioned earlier too, it is so beautifully done that they don't need to give you any background. There's no episode where we're messing around with them trying to explain what the show's about. Everything is done in this like minute and 10-second, it's probably shorter than that, in this like minute theme song. Like, it is really, really well done, actually.
Yeah. And we just get, it's very catchy. We get the intro, we get clips of the show, which are fairly like uninteresting, unsubstantial. I will say the band that does the theme song is the same band that does the Sweet Life theme song.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
I didn't realize until today. Yeah.
I would say this is one of my least favorite outros. So the outro to every single episode, you know, we've seen different things, but this one is just they just do like collages of photos across the screen,
which is something we did with a lot of DComs at this time too.
Yeah. But I feel like I like that more because it would be like photos of them like filming behind the scenes, and it just seems like kind of cute with the DComs. But I don't know, something about it with the series, I'm like, really? We could have come up with something better.
It feels like it makes more sense with a DCom because like it's longer, but when it's just
20 minutes, yeah,
for sure. So in terms of Disney Plus uploading things in the wrong order, we only have 2 episodes that are out of order. Episodes 1 and 3 got flipped in the Disney Plus upload for some reason. So the first one, if you watch on Disney Plus, is Meet the Curtis, and then the second one is Unification Day, and the third is Your Cheatin' Heart. But in actuality, when they premiered, it was Your Cheatin' Heart, Meet the Curtis, and then no, sorry, it was Your Cheatin' Heart, Unification Day, and then Meet the Curtis. However, it doesn't matter that much because for some reason when Phil of the Future came out, they had the first 4 episodes come out on the same day. Like, they must have done a big 2-hour like block. So it was those 3 plus filling in that all came out on the same day. The production codes, however, are all
way
over
off
the place. Like, mid-season, we get what should have been the pilot, what is technically the pilot, which Jessica hasn't even watched yet because it's mid-season and this is 4 episodes in that we're going to cover. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. I don't know why they did it that way.
Yeah, and we've said this before, but I feel the need to clarify because sometimes we get some comments. We understand that production order is different than airing order. We will always review and talk about episodes in airing order because that's what matters to us. This is the way that Disney chose to air the episodes. So same with Phil, even though we said it's all wacky, it's kind of weird, the continuity is strange, we still will talk about it in airing order because growing up, that's how they chose to air it and that's how we would have watched it. So we want to kind of relive in that same experience.
Yeah, because I think especially now that we're getting into the mid-aughts, 2004, 2005, that was probably when I started like tuning in to those Friday new episodes and Saturday new episodes. And so I think air order is much more important because also, why do we always underestimate a young audience? We weren't that young to not notice.
Yeah. I don't remember anything, but maybe as I watch it, some of those memories will come back of like watching them as they were released as I get more into season 1.
So episode 1 by air order is Your Cheatin' Heart. So do
you want to do it or you want me to do it?
I can do it because there are some that I can't do.
Okay, sounds good.
So Keely and her crush Tanner are playing Romeo and Juliet together in class. It's kind of an assignment, and Tanner is very cool and he's very like about himself, and Keely's so into it, and Phil clearly jealous. He overhears Tanner on the phone talking to someone that very much sounds like he's talking to a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So Phil thinks that he's cheating on Keely. So when he overhears the name Darcy on the phone.
Yes.
Well, Keely and Tanner have kind of been like, as they're playing Romeo and Juliet, they're also like flirting and they're kind of together-ish, right?
Yeah. He's definitely like leaving Keely hints to know that so that she knows he's interested. Like it's very obvious flirting.
And I think he invites Keely somewhere or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil hears the name Darcy when Tanner's on the phone. And then later, a girl named Darcy is seen in the halls asking for Tanner. And so Phil like runs around the corner and then morphs himself into Tanner and comes back around, I think. Isn't that how it goes?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they kiss privately.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, that's in the Wikipedia description is the word privately.
I mean, it's in the hallway. Like, is that private?
So after they kiss, Phil tells Keely, he tries to explain, but she gets kind of like defensive and she's like, you don't really know what you're talking about, and like, why are you so invested in this? But then Darcy like runs into the room and gives Tanner a kiss, and that's when Keely learns the truth and apologizes to Phil, and she still has to perform on stage but kind of like shuts Tanner down after that.
Let's do the subplot real quick and then we'll do notes together.
Pim tries to break up Debbie and Bradley because they're annoying her, because they're all like, I love you. Well, I don't know that they say love, but they're like, you're so cute, snookums and whatever. They're annoying. So she tells Debbie that Bradley hit on her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then Debbie throws a pie in Bradley's face. But then, right?
Actually, yes, that does happen. Yes. When you said that, I was like, what? But no, you're right. Yes, Debbie throws a pie in Bradley's face.
And then Debbie wants Bradley back, kind of. So, like, she throws the pie in his face. But then Bradley's like, oh, I kind of like this. And then Bradley, like, is shown to be into the bad girl type thing. And Pim's trying to train Debbie to be a bad girl to get Bradley back, because even though she's the one that broke them up, she also was really sick of getting Bradley's attention. But it doesn't work, and Bradley's like into Pim at the end of it. Yeah, it's really weird. I have a lot of quotes written down.
It's a very weird. I did not write any notes because on that part of the plot, because I was like, this is just, I don't like it.
No, I wrote so many because I didn't like it. This is what we mean when we say that Bradley's characterization is weird.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Also, can we talk about this is the first episode aired? Why did they choose a cheating plot line and a weird I'm into bad girls middle school plot line?
It's very strange. Here's the thing is, I actually remember this episode because I remember the cheating episode.
I remembered the Pim plot line.
Oh, I did not remember the Pim plot line, but I did remember the Keely and Phil plot line. And so this is an episode I remember, which makes sense because it's the first they aired and they probably re-aired it many times. But I do agree, it feels weird. It doesn't like really introduce you to any of the characters truly because it's in like a weird emotional situation.
I kind of disagree on that.
Really?
Well, I think it introduces you to who Pim, Debbie, and Bradley are pretty quickly because their personalities are such a big part of that storyline. And also with Keely and Phil, I think that the confusing thing about it is it sort of sets up this dynamic where he's a bit jealous and you kind of suspect he might be into her, and that we don't really see played out more until season 2, but I
Yeah.
very much remember being invested in that. So
Yeah.
this was the couple I needed to happen so
Yeah.
badly growing up.
Well, yeah, and I was surprised by that because I did remember that I was like, I'm pretty sure nothing happens with them truly until like way later on in the series. So I was
Mhm.
shocked that the first episode they kind of set up that Phil has like more than just friend interest in Keely.
You'll find, we'll go into it in the next one, but even if you go by production code, it I didn't realize it, but it has actually kind of always been like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a little Gordo and Lizzie.
Got it.
Anywho, so notes.
Notes. Can we talk about some of these lines that Tanner
Absolutely.
would feed Keely? So one of them, he told her, "You've got stained glass eyes," in which Phil literally like coughs out loud and is dying because he's like, this is the most cheesy, ridiculous thing I've ever heard like someone say. And it truly, what does that mean? Like Keely's all smitten, and it's like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to process what someone saying you've got stained glass eyes means.
Well, the eyes are the windows to the soul, right?
So the windows to your soul are mosaic? Like, I don't I'm not following, you know?
I kind of get it. I feel like it's like your eyes are like glassy and pretty. I don't know. It is very weird. Do you have more though?
Yeah. We don't hear him say this to her, but we hear her say something that Tanner told her. And she goes, "He called me glowworm because I light up his life."
Oh, I do remember that one.
I was like, what? It's just too much. Like, I guess when you are that age, you do fall for like certain things. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, that's not really like someone feeding me cheesy lines is not going to serve me in life. And I don't need that. But these are so cheesy.
Yeah, it kind of adds to his eccentric aloofness. You don't know if he's like, well, he's like an acteur, but also he's just dumb.
Yeah.
I have some notes on Bradley's lines similarly.
Okay.
I think he refers to Pym as wild and untamed.
Yes, he does.
He also growls.
Mm-hmm.
But truly the best one and the worst one simultaneously is when Pym is like, "Why do you like me? Why don't you like Debbie now? I made Debbie like me." And he goes, "Why would I go after hamburger when I'm looking at steak?"
Yeah.
Why are we having little boys portrayed this way?
I mean, we've brought this up before where it like made us pretty uncomfortable with the way they portrayed Corey's character
And Stanley.
in Stanley.
Yeah.
And this feels very similar.
And I know Zach in The Sweet Life is going to be a bit like this.
Oh, yeah.
And we definitely get some, like, ladies' man. But, like, why? Why is this how we're characterizing little boys? And also, why are we letting little boys talk about little girls as pieces of meat? Like, that's literally equating them to pieces of meat.
And they're 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the actors were as well. Like, that's...
Yeah.
But it's, like, so ludicrous that, like, I'm mad, but I'm also very amused because it just sounds so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but, like, the thing is, even with Disney so far, this isn't the first time we've seen this type of characterization. It won't be the last. And so it's gotten to a point where it's not surprising anymore, even though I feel like we should be more upset about it.
I think that line is one of the worst we've heard, though.
I would agree. Yep.
Yeah. Um, Another good line, though, that's from the main plot is when Phil is disguised as Tanner and he kisses Darcy, which also kissing in the first ever episode, what? She
Yeah.
says, "Your kissing is better than ever."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like, you go, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's when he, like, because he's trying to take the compliment, he, like, messes up the instamorph and, like, morphs back into Phil. So then he has to, like, play with it. And he's, like, morphing into his dad and his mom and, like, everyone trying to, like, morph back into Tanner before she sees him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other funny lines?
I don't have any other funny lines, but I have more notes and like a
Me
couple more
too.
just like general notes.
Me too.
Go ahead.
So I kind of liked this. So when Phil finds out and like confirms that Tanner is for sure cheating on Keely or that Tanner has a girlfriend, he goes to his parents for advice.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah. And his mom's like, you know what? This would be better. It's better if it comes from you. Like, you need to tell her, you need to be honest. Like, this situation sucks, but like, it's better if she hears it from you. And his dad's advice, I'm using quotes, advice,
Mm-hmm.
is to stay out of it. And I do feel like this is very much a like feminine versus masculine thing where it's like men are like, don't want to get involved, just stay out of it. Sounds messy, sounds like a sticky situation. Better to just not insert yourself. And then women, we tend to be a little more empathetic. We're like, oh my God, think of all the feelings. And if you just tell her, like, it's going to suck, but it's better because you're her best friend and she should hear it from you. And it just felt like very
Realistic.
realistic. Generic advice, but realistic.
Yeah, I agree. I was impressed with the mom in this instance. And this is one of the times you do see Phil like go to his family, to his
Mm-hmm.
parents. He's a good son.
He is.
But also it shows how dumb the dad is. He's very surface level, I'd say. He's not always
Yeah.
dumb. He just doesn't think things through.
Yeah. The only other note I have, which is a very pointless note,
Mm-hmm.
but in one of the scenes, we see them at their lockers, and their lockers are like lockers, but then they have a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little drawer that pulls out. That's a shelf. And I've never seen a locker like that. And it's so cool. I was like, how awesome that you get a shelf. But then also I was like, what's the point? Like, why do you need a shelf?
Do they all have that, or is that just Phil?
I guess I've only seen it in Phil, but like normally lockers are standard. So I would just assume that everyone has that.
In another episode, we see Phil's like personalized his locker and like totally tricked it out.
Oh, okay. Okay. So maybe I'll learn more about the lockers.
Maybe.
Okay.
My other notes are Allie delivered. There's this scene where she's realized that he's cheating because she's seen Darcy kiss Tanner, and she still has to perform the scene in class with him, and she's like very clearly upset but is reciting Shakespeare, and her eyes, her face, her voice, she's putting in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I felt the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and even the teacher like comments on it. It's like,
Mhm.
this is what I've been asking for the whole time.
Yeah, and that's obviously scripted, but I like genuinely considering Allie's pretty new to acting at this point.
Yeah.
Well, new to professional. I guess she started really young, but like that was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can count like church productions as acting. It
When
truly
you're
is.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
And then my last note is similar to my note about Bradley's storyline is like in the why are we portraying like boys like that? Why are so many of our shows that we grew up watching about guys cheating? And why is this the first episode they chose to show? Because I definitely thought growing up that, like, I don't know, I guess I just felt like being cheated on was, like, inevitable because
Yeah.
we saw so many portrayals of it.
Yeah. And I feel like personally it's never happened to me, but
Me
also
either.
from like who it's affected in my life, I feel like to an extent it is inevitable.
It's not happened to me either. It's not happened to you. So let's
Yeah.
hope it's not. I know it's common,
Yeah.
but
I think
these
that's
are
a thing, it's common. But yeah, should we be portraying 14-year-olds doing that? Because
that's
then
the
is it
thing.
like justifying the action for certain people? Because you're like, oh, well, everyone cheats sometimes.
Exactly. And teaching girls to expect it or teaching boys that it's not that bad instead of just like not,
Yeah.
or showing a really, I guess there's sometimes where you could portray it but also have like such negative repercussions that you're like showing that it's bad, like with that whole smoking raven episode.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like this episode really did that.
No, not at all.
Episode
Episode 2. Unification Day. It's Unification Day, which is a holiday of the future where all the countries have unified and there's world peace. And so,
it's in 90 years for it takes place in 2094.
yes.
So some of us, we might be alive. It'd be really impressive we'd be exactly 100 years old, but I've got really good genes in my family, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. I know. I literally wrote, this sounds truly lovely.
Yeah, they all like, it's not even EU style. They like fully got rid of borders and became one.
Yep. And so it's this big holiday for the family, and the parents are really excited to celebrate. And you could tell the kids are like kind of into it, but also they're like, this doesn't even happen for like 90 more years. Like, do we really need to celebrate it? And, Barb and Lloyd are like, yeah, of course we have to. And so Phil goes to school that day and he gets invited to a party because his friend Seth is a bathroom attendant for the 11th grade bathroom. So there's a bathroom that's only for 11th graders, and Seth is the bathroom attendant. So then he gets invites to this party, and he's like, well, can I invite my friends? And the 11th grader's like, yeah, you can invite your friends. And so Phil like really wants to go to this party, and Lloyd's like not too happy about it, but eventually is like, okay, yes, like I get that you want to hang out with your friends. You're a high schooler, like go to this party. I do think this is the episode where we learn they're sophomores. And so they show up to the party and the girls get let in. So Tia and Keely get let in, but Seth and Phil don't.
Yeah, because they're too young and because the girls are cute.
Yeah. And there's like a bouncer at the
There's a
party.
full-on grown man as well.
Bouncer. Yeah. But then eventually Seth gets like let in to go plunge a toilet. But then he needs like backup because he just has this like weird little like pocket portable plunger that like folds out. And so Phil goes home to get him supplies, and while he's home, he plays this like future game which is called Laser Squash with his dad, and they're like hanging out. And so Phil's kind of like, oh, I am missing out on all these like Unification Day activities that I love. So he goes back to the party, he drops off all the like supplies that Seth needs, and then he's like, you know what, guys, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go back home and hang out with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keely ends up joining him, and they go back home and they eat Uniloaf, which is like this loaf that they described as 7 foods from 7 continents in one loaf. And this is connected to the side plot because Pam had to cook one homemade meal for class and she didn't. She went to like a taqueria and like bought tacos and brought them in. And so her assignment was she needed to go home and make one homemade meal and have her parents sign off on it, like, so that way her teacher knows she actually cooked something from scratch. And so she's put in charge of making the uni loaf. Except she uses the spray food because they have like spray food from the future. And so she goes to throw the can in the trash to like get rid of the evidence that she used the spray food, but the can like cracks and spills open. And so there's like a giant meatloaf, like the size of a couch.
She puts it in like a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, to like wheel slices. Like when Amanda says she puts it in a wheelbarrow, like not the whole meatloaf, like just a slice of the meatloaf goes in the wheelbarrow. But yeah, it ends in this cute scene of them all being a family, enjoying the holiday and kind of eating the meatloaf.
This is the episode where I wrote, Evan Peters? Brenda Song?
Yeah, literally.
Unification Day is a fascinating concept. As I said, looking forward to it.
Yep. But also, as you said, we'd be 100. So, like, are we going to make it there?
My great grandma lived to her through her 90s, her mid 90s.
Yeah. My great grandma's currently 101.
Wow.
So like.
So I think we have a good chance.
Yeah, maybe.
It's an episode. They used the word urinal at one point. I took note of that. Because I was a little surprised.
I was confused about, like, why is there a bathroom that's only for 11th graders?
Why were you confused?
Like, that seems weird. Like, it's not like when we went to high school, there weren't bathrooms for certain grades. There's just bathrooms.
Well, no, our high school was weird. I don't know that it's technically like the school decided or just the 11th graders decided.
I think the 11th graders decided. But also, this episode made me think about, I would like to talk about bathroom attendants. Do you like bathroom attendants? Do you not? I think some people find them pointless. Personally, I love a bathroom attendant. I always tip bathroom attendants. And when you know you're going to a place with a bathroom attendant, there's like a small concert venue in LA that me and one of my friends really enjoy. And there's a lot of times where we're like, oh, we forgot deodorant, or like, oh, I could use a little hairspray. And just knowing that guarantee there's a bathroom attendant where you're going and you're going to have access to all these things, it makes the process of going out feel slightly less stressful. Because you know you have an emergency woman just sitting in the bathroom.
I don't think I've ever encountered one because I don't go fancy places or to many live music venues. If I have, I don't remember it. And it would have only been like once. But also, if I had, I wouldn't know that they served that function. Like, I didn't know you could get those things from them. I don't know what function they serve. I'd just be like, why are they there?
Oh, they have like Band-Aids, Tic Tacs, hairspray, lotion, deodorant. They hand you towels. Sometimes they'll have like little mini packets of Advil and stuff. They're very, very handy. I love a bathroom attendant.
I just thought they kept the bathroom clean and sometimes handed you towels.
They do, but they're not like, their main job is not like custodial. Like, there's other people that do that. Truly, their main job is like to be like the concierge of the bathroom.
I just don't know that we all know that.
Well, here I am saying I love a bathroom attendant. If you go somewhere, tip your bathroom attendant. And we should have more bathroom attendants.
Agreed. I was just surprised that they used the word urinal.
I don't remember them doing that.
That was in my notes. Do you have more notes on the bathroom part of it?
No.
Okay. I have a note that Keely says, or maybe Keely and Tia say that they've done 6 hours of plucking and moisturizing.
Yes.
To go to the party.
Uh-huh.
And first of all, I want to know why that was portrayed in the show that a lot of young impressionable girls were watching. And second of all, I want to know how,
Yeah,
just like bodily, like how it took that long.
what were they moisturizing and what were they plucking that took them 6 hours?
Yeah, like did you like pluck every individual hair off your legs? Because that might take me 6 hours.
Yeah.
But aside, like short of that, it
And
would be,
like,
it's like a feat for it to make it take 6 hours.
yeah, also like max you can spend moisturizing is like 10 minutes. Like once you put lotion on, what else are you I guess you could do a face mask. But once you do that, what else are you doing?
I don't even know how I would spend 10 minutes putting on lotion.
Well, if you did it really slowly.
Maybe. But yeah, also didn't love that that was portrayed because, like, have body hair. Preferably don't have dry skin because, like, it's not good for you. But other than that, it just, like, doesn't feel great. But, like, have body hair. Don't be ashamed of your body.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one other note, and it's on the side plot. How about you?
I don't have any more notes.
Oh, my last note is about the side plot. At the end, we are seen with they're eating the last of the uni loaf. And we get a big butt joke.
Oh, we do?
The dad has a massively round ass, like huge fake implant, huge butt, because he's been eating too much uni loaf.
I feel like I would have wrote a note about this, and I'm shocked that I didn't. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
No.
I think he said
We're
something
going
like,
back to the like lunchroom Judge Foodie episode.
it's that kind of big butt, yeah.
Ugh, I hate that.
I think he makes a comment like he's been hitting the uni loaf a little too hard or something, and they're like, yeah, we know. And he has to like squeeze through the kitchen.
Oh Lord, no. Not here for the fake big butts.
Not here for the fat shaming.
Yep.
Eat what
Also,
you want,
that's
bitches.
not how eating works.
It's not.
Like, it's not all gonna go into one place immediately and just live there. And even if it did, eat what you want.
Be fat if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Episode 3. Meet the Curtis, which is episode 1 on Disney Plus, which was confusing for me because of the plotline. So, this is when the Diffy family finds out that they have a caveman living in. They hear like banging and things are disappearing or something, and they find the caveman. He had stowed away on their time machine, and from when they went to like the prehistoric times. I don't know when cavemen were alive. Don't come at me, science people. Hopefully you're not listening to this. Well, I don't know. Be friends with me. I like science. I just don't want to learn it. I'm continuing now. So Lloyd decides that they should get rid of Curtis, that he doesn't belong in this time period, but they can't take him back because the time machine's broken. So instead they go to like a park with like a lot of trees. It's like a forest. But like not quite a full forest.
Yeah, I wrote a middle of a field. It felt more field-like, but there were trees in the distance, but it was kind of like open and like fieldy.
Yeah, which is why it's like a park.
Yeah.
A forest. Because it was like walking through the field to the trees. They had to like say goodbye to Curtis.
Yeah.
But Phil and Keely were like really sad. Phil wants to keep Curtis. I don't remember a lot of this, but I do think they get separated at one point.
So Phil's dad, so Lloyd, goes into the forest to use the restroom, and he's gone missing.
To use the restroom as in to pee on a tree.
Correct. To use the restroom as in to pee on a tree. And he's gone missing, and Phil is starting to get concerned and is like, we should go try to find my dad. Like, it's been too long. And so they are like walking. This is where it gets more foresty and less fieldy. They're walking through the forest. trying to find Lloyd, but then there's a wild pig.
Like a wild boar.
Yeah, like a wild boar. And Curtis comes out of nowhere and like throws a football at the boar and scares it off. And then they find Lloyd and they're all kind of like reunited. And then that's the point where Lloyd is like, okay, we can keep Curtis. Like, he can stay in the garage. And Phil like celebrates.
I don't think I remembered that they agreed that they could keep Curtis. I think I was doing something when I watched this episode, because then later Curtis is still there and I was like, what the fuck? Didn't they throw him away in the forest?
No, he said that he's allowed to live in the garage. So now Curtis is like their caveman that just like sublets the garage but probably doesn't pay anything for it.
He doesn't pay anything for it. What would he pay with? His teeth?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like he has great caveman skills. Like, he comes in handy.
I only have one note on the main plot, so I'm going to give it to you before we do the subplot. I can do the subplot, by the way, because I actually remember that one, I think,
Okay.
mostly. Anyway,
Yeah.
my only note is, why does he have super smell? Is that a thing that's proven, or did they just think that making him more like a dog would make him more primitive?
Science people, let us know.
Yeah, now I do hope you're listening, please, because there's a point where he like sniffs something of Lloyd's and then like leads them through the forest to find it.
Yeah.
Why?
I have a couple of notes on this. I don't like that when they first find Curtis, they are like scratching and petting him like he's a pet dog.
Again, we made him less like a human. Yes, continue. Well, he's a Neanderthal, but he's a Neanderthal. He's not a dog. Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that was my thing. I'm like, don't we have a giant problem with them acting like this person is a pet? Like, I really walked away feeling not great about that.
Interesting.
Because even when they offered for him to stay in the garage, it still felt like, oh, this is our pet that we are keeping now. It's like, he's not a pet.
It gets better. Thankfully, they treat him more like a human in the other episodes, but I think that also makes it a starker contrast in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, just, this is a note about both plot lines. I wrote, this episode is a roller coaster that I never wanted to go on.
So on that note, the subplot, so Debbie's having a sleepover and she invites Pim and Pim's like, I'm busy, but then Debbie's like invited like 24 people and like all the cool kids and says they're all gonna be there. So finally Pim's like, well, then I guess I have to be there. Like, she kind of gets jealous in a way of like suddenly being excluded, because I think Debbie like takes away her invitation when she's just busy or something. I don't know. Anyway, she takes it back. She decides, okay, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
And then she arrives and it's only 3 nerds.
Mm-hmm.
It's Silent Sally, it's neck brace something. She has an actual name. She's like a reoccurring character. She's always in a neck brace. And then a third girl who I don't remember, but I think she's Silent Sally's friend. Right? There's 3, right?
No, it's 2 of them and then
Debbie.
You
really could have corrected me as I was like going on.
Well, I was thinking, because I wrote only 3 show up, and then I was like, I was trying to think, because I'm like, was there 3? But it's like, no, there were. So there's 4 of them total.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Pim, Debbie, Silent Sally, and neck brace Nancy, I think is her name.
Yep.
And Pim's like, this is my worst nightmare. And they try to play games and it's awful, and they have to go to bed at 6:30 when it's still light out, and then Pim tries to escape, but Debbie's grandma catches her in the hallway, and then Pim has to go back to the sleepy times. I think.
Yeah, and there's this one point where Pim dresses up
As the grandma.
as the grandma to sneak out of the house, to get out of the sleepover. And there's this scene where the grandma's in the hallway and Pim is in the doorway dressed as the grandma, and the grandma sees her. So then Pim is like mirroring every single like moment, like movement that the grandma's doing. So then the grandma thinks that she's just like passing by a mirror, but it's like, one wouldn't, that just doesn't make sense, because like you would know if there was a mirror in your house at a certain area or not.
And then she's like looking at her butt and stuff.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a really well done scene. Like Pim's acting in that scene was really like hilarious to watch, and it was done very well. So it was an entertaining scene, but I was like, this is nonsense. Like,
I feel like I've seen the grandma before. I don't know if she was in like.
did we get her name?
No, I don't really care enough for that. But I think
Okay.
she was in maybe So Random or Sunny with a Chance, like
Oh,
in a
okay.
skit. You know, like I feel like she's like a character actress.
Yeah.
Kay's onesie is really fun. Debbie's onesie was really fun. I liked it. I wanted one. And Silent Sally spoke at one point, so I made a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then just
It seems like the worst sleepover ever, and I slightly felt for Pim, but also I was like, Pim, this was the moment where I was like, I think she's evil.
Why?
Because she really was trying to sneak out, and she was just like, not, I don't know. She's just being conniving.
It's a weird relationship she has with Debbie, because Debbie really thinks Pim is her friend, and Pim really hates Debbie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you definitely get that in here. Also, she's like, you said you invited 24 people, and Debbie's like, yeah, isn't it a great turnout?
Yeah.
3.
Okay,
episode 4?
Yep, filling in. So the episode opens up, and Phil and Lloyd are on these things called skayaks, and they're like maneuvering the skayaks and like racing each other. But then Lloyd has this card.
It's an
called
afterburner.
And it like allows the skyack to go faster, I guess. So this sets it up where Lloyd decides he wants to take a road trip with Barb. And Phil obviously does not want to be left alone with Pim, but he's put in charge. And his dad is like, all right, if you do a great job while we're out on this road trip, then I'll give you the afterburner. And Pim kind of overhears this conversation. And so they go to leave. Barb gives them a list of chores. It's like, clean the garage, rake the leaves, give Curtis a bath. And so Phil's like, there's not that many chores. I'll just do them all. Like, you just hang tight, do your thing, Pim, but I don't need you. I'll just handle all these chores.
Which is chill.
Like, what a great older sibling. To be like, you just do your younger sibling thing. I'll handle the chores. Just do what you want. All I'm asking for you to do is to not be mischievous. And what does Pim do?
She's mischievous.
Yeah.
She overheard that conversation and she gets the inkling. I think she also wants the afterburner, and she's like not allowed on the skayaks or something. I don't know. She's feeling some type of way about butting heads with Phil recently, and she feels like he's only being nice to her because of the afterburner. Which, by the way, is an actual thing that is like for jets and stuff. I copied the summary for this from Wikipedia, and afterburner linked to another Wikipedia page. To the like, it's a modification that makes them go faster.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's literally like a card in the show, though. It looks like it's like a Pokemon card.
Yeah. And
Which I'm like,
Sky,
I don't understand what this is doing. Like, you insert it into the Skyack and all of a sudden it like changes its ability to go faster, and also it looks like maybe it goes like further into space.
and Skyacks, by the way, just look like jet skis that go through the air.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
They
so
do not look like a kayak.
no. But so Pam gets mischievous and tries to sabotage the weekend by acting really nice to Phil, but like doing shit behind his back. Do you remember the stuff she did?
Yeah, so Keely, because of course Keely's there, because why wouldn't she be there? They're raking the leaves together. They just finished, and they're like, "Oh, let's go." All we have to do is like put them in the bag. So they're getting ready to, finish their job. Pim comes out with a leaf blower and is like, "Oh, maybe this will help." So she's being fake nice. Like, she knows that she's up to no good, and she's purposely sabotaging all the chores he's doing. But she's acting very like, "I'm only 12. I didn't think that this would happen." And like comes out with the leaf blower and blows the leaves all over the backyard. So they have to start over. They also give Curtis a bath. And then Pim makes a cake covered in walla berries, which is like Curtis's favorite thing to eat. And so then he literally like pummels his body into this cake and makes a huge mess and gets it all over himself. So then they have to rebathe him.
And
She also locks them in the garage at one time.
and Phil does call her out on like, you gave him Wallaberry, you know what it does to him. Why are you trying to do this? And she eventually gives it up and is like, you're never getting that afterburner.
Yeah. And so while they're locked in the garage, Pim takes the Skyack out for a joyride and it dies, and it kind of like crashes, I guess you would say. But she ends up like way further than where the Skyack crashes. She's like on top of a mountain and she can't get down.
Mm-hmm.
And the Skyack is at the bottom. And so they're able to get like the coordinates of where it is. And so Kaylee and Phil go and try to find Pim. And then there's this moment where he's like climbing up the rock mountain to like get to Pim. And she expects him to be like really, really angry. But he's like, "I'm just glad you're okay." And they have this cute little sibling moment, but I don't think it's deserved because she was a terror.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you or not. I think there was some motivation behind her being rude. I think she was worse than she ever needed to be, for sure. And mostly I was just like pleasantly surprised by what a good older sibling he was, by
Mm-hmm.
going after her and being very concerned and very like understanding and wasn't mad at her.
Yeah.
Because I think younger siblings and older siblings, we fuck up. We're mean to each other. And sometimes we just need forgiveness. I know you and your sibling have a great relationship, but
Yeah.
speaking from experience.
Yeah. I don't know. I just felt like he handled the whole thing so well. And maybe this is like the older sibling in me just like getting very angry at like Pim's behavior. But
Mhm.
I just don't think it was justified, because even if his reasoning for acting very like adult and stepping up was to get this card, I don't see why it affected Pim.
I feel like it was because she wasn't allowed to go on the Skyack
But then
or
she went
something
and
like
took
that.
it out, and it didn't seem like it was a big deal that she took it out. But maybe it was.
It was. That I do think they have a very complicated sibling relationship, but there are times where it's clear that Pim does respect Phil and like kind of repays him for his kindness. So,
Okay. I'm looking forward to those times.
okay. I'll have to make sure to assign them. And then just like a side note, the quick side plot, the parents went on the road trip having all kinds of mishaps, not good with maps, getting lost. And mostly they're getting followed by like a sheriff for a long time with the lights on, and they don't know what it is, and so they don't pull over. Yeah, and then they end up getting a really big ticket, and they're like, I wonder if these are good seats. What's it for?
Mm-hmm.
This was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they literally think when they come home, they're like, yeah, it was great. We were in a parade for a while, and then we got tickets to something, and you're like, oh no, these poor people. They're going to get fined a lot of money for not paying those tickets.
But if they don't know what the tickets are, then they won't know what the fines are. But I was confused because they know a lot about this century because they like look it up, you know? They're like aficionados. How do they not know what a cop is?
Yeah, because this can't be their first interaction with a cop.
Or if they're driving, you'd think they'd have looked up the basics.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's something that's on your driver's test. Like, if there are sirens behind you, pull over to the right. Like, in order to be able to drive, you have to know that.
Well, they might not have an actual license.
Mm.
But still, I just
Yeah.
felt like they should have known that.
Yeah. There's most of my notes are in the main plot, but the small thing on the side plot is there's this point where Lloyd is freaking out about not being able to find the keys to the car, and they're in his hand, and I just have to say that is like me all the time.
That was a
I'm
big
like,
mood.
where's my phone? In my pocket. Where's my hair scrunchie? On my wrist. Like, everything that I ever need is probably on my person.
Yeah. He's like, they're packing, and he's like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Do we have everything? And yeah, it was a big mood.
It was.
The opening scene when they're on the Skyax, it's giving Spy Kids on a Halloween Town budget.
That is the best way to describe that scene. This is why I was like so confused. Like, when it first opened up, I was like, I don't understand what's happening. Like,
yeah. We're about 5 years away from wizards flying on carpets, but actually we're only about 3 years away from it, but it feels like we're at least 5 because the carpet flying is a lot better than this.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Also, I want to know, how did they get the Skyack back? Because at the end, there's an scene of Phil polishing the Skyack in the backyard as the parents return from the road trip. And it's like, how did they get it back? Because it was crashed.
Maybe because it's electric, right? So, because we're not using fossil fuels in the future. Fuck that.
Sure.
So maybe they had
charged it?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Or a battery or something.
Okay. That makes sense. I'll accept that answer.
Thanks. This is when I went, Curtis is back? Because I fully thought he went off in the woods.
Here's the thing is, I wrote a note too, and I wrote, Curtis is still at the house, so clearly I had forgotten that they gave him permission to stay in the garage.
Oh my gosh. Wherever they live, and part of why I think that it might be somewhere in Southern California is kind of funny because at one point Phil's giving directions and he says north of Kid Rock, east of Ricky Lake, a shortcut through the Tiger Woods. And then he goes, It's a strange town.
Yeah. I'm confused on how they got locked in the garage because I've never been in a garage that doesn't connect to a room of a house.
And yeah, you have.
I have?
At my parents'.
Oh, I guess that's true. That is a garage that doesn't connect to a house.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, I take that back then. Maybe that's how their garage is set up. But I just thought it was weird that they got locked in the garage.
Detached garages are pretty common.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, if you can't open any of the doors, you can at least open the big one from the inside. That's how garages work.
Yeah. Did you have anything else? I have one more line that I wrote down that I was like, ooh, this is so early 2000s and it's just not okay.
I have a line that I didn't love either. That's my other note.
Okay, you say it because I have a feeling it's the same line.
Really?
I
Mine
do.
is celery and cream cheese for the lady.
Oh, just kidding. Not
Yeah,
the same at all.
I didn't think it would be. It's when Pim is like bringing snacks to Phil
Yeah.
and Keely, and she gives Phil like a big hearty something like delicious, and then she gives Keely celery and cream
Well,
cheese.
Keely asked for celery and cream
Oh,
cheese.
she did?
Yeah, because Pim says she's going to go in and make snacks. And Keely's like, oh, I would really love some celery and cream cheese.
Okay, I didn't hear her ask for it, so that makes it better because I was very much like, what? She has to diet? Like, what is this? I don't like
No,
it.
no, she asked for it.
Okay, I take it back then. What's your line?
Pim to Curtis goes, Curtis, you're in America now. Speak English. And I just did not love that at
I
all.
think I think that was one of the ones like the steak and hamburger one that was like
I was
so
like,
wrong. It just made
oh,
me laugh, so I completely forgot she said that.
yeah. And I
Uh,
just like, I grew up with extended family members that had that mindset, and I just have really separated myself from that. So, like, hearing that was like, I just felt like I really rewinded back in time where I was like, oh, God, no,
yeah.
it's not okay.
I grew up with immediate family members who feel that way still, and it's
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
But um yeah, I can see why it didn't age well. I just didn't even take note of it because I think I thought I would just like thought it was so ridiculous that I couldn't stop laughing and forgot to write it down.
Oh, no, I immediately was one of those where I was like, oh, my God. I was like, this aired? But then I was like, oh, well, it is 2004. But still.
Yeah. And also, it's a little bit on character for Pim because Pim is not the nicest person and she's not the most considerate.
Yes, I think of all the characters it came from, it actually makes sense that they wrote it for her character. I still just didn't love the use of the line.
For sure. So, those are the first 4 episodes. The first to come out all on one day would have set off anyone's expectations for Phil of the Future. So, Jessica, since you haven't watched any more, how did it do? How were those episodes for you? What are your expectations?
This show is like wacky in a way that none of the shows we've watched so far is. And I don't know how to like explain it other than that. Like, I can't say particularly what makes it feel that way, but it's just very like kooky and weird and strange. And the acting is like not quite on par with the other shows we watched. So it's definitely not as good, but it's very entertaining to rewatch. And I also think not having as strong of memories to it is making it more fun to rewatch.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, I would say it's a Disney show.
I think
Like
all
it's
Disney
not
shows are
bad.
good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad by any means. Like the episodes feel as long as the episodes in That's So Raven, it's still like I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, it's already over. I like took my notes. How cute. Next episode. Like it's very easy to watch. It's likable. I'm like excited to get to learn the personalities a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just very kooky and wacky in a way that I feel like we haven't gotten before.
It's like the zaniness of
Yeah.
Even Stevens with the relationships of Lizzie, but the magical realism of Raven.
Yeah. Yes.
And we're back in that magical realism that I kept talking about all the time because they're from the future. It's kids going to school, but they're from the future. And part of what I think makes it so zany is that because they're from the future, pretty much every episode introduces a new concept that's about the future, whether it's Unification Day or the Skyack or whatever, which I think would have been so fun in the writer's room to just keep coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, and I love that we didn't really get into it while we were going over the episodes, but they do incorporate, like, in the cheating episode, the instamorph. So, like,
they're always part of the plot. They're not just a thought.
yeah, and it's very intentional, and it's cool to be like, oh, that's fun. And the spray food, like, spray food is something I remember. Like, when I think of Phil of the Future, I think of the theme song, and I think of spray food. But yeah, each episode they throw a couple things where you're like, oh, this is like fun to think about, you know, like, oh, what technologies are going to be there in the future, but also like how they implement and how they use them in their day-to-day life adds to the zaniness.
Yeah. I loved
but it's
it.
good. It's really fun, I do have to say, and like the star power is like not what I was expecting.
Because you don't remember it that well, but then I think maybe because it's the side characters, and spoiler, they don't all last for season 2. So, but like, honestly, Ali Michalka carries the show. Like,
Yeah.
her alone, I'm so happy. And I actually also think that Amy Bruckner does a really good job as Pam. I think she's really good.
Yeah. Well, and I think Ricky Ullman too. I'm like, I have no complaints. I'm like, yeah, he's for his age, like he's very decent.
And he's a nice characterization of a boy that I can get behind that we don't always get.
Yeah, for sure.
But anything else to say before we sign off?
No, I'm just like excited to keep watching Phil. Other than that, check us out on our socials. 90s Babies Nostalgia on Instagram and on YouTube. Spell out the word 90s. Rate and subscribe and like.
Please, yes, rate and like and subscribe and all of those things, because it
And you
helps.
can do it on Spotify now. So if you're a Spotify podcast listener, you have no excuse. You don't need to go into Apple to click the 5 stars. You can also do it in Spotify.
But you could also do it in both if you really, really wanted.
Yeah, that would be lovely. You should do that.
Thanks so much for listening and dealing with our fun hiatuses. We're happy to be back when we can. Hope you're enjoying it, because we are.
Yeah, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye. What is that noise?